Hello, my name is Shelby Hearn, and I'm a part of Team 7. Today we will be discussing and visualizing incarceration, specifically incarceration of young and middle adults ages 18 through approximately 65. Since 2002, the U.S. has had the highest incarceration rate in the world. Most countries comparable to the United States have approximately 100 prisoners per 100,000 people, while the U.S. has had 500 per 100,000 people. In United States prisons and local jails, men make up about 90% of the population. Incarcerations are most common amongst men in their 20s and 30s. One of the most alarming facts amongst incarceration rates in the United States is the representation and exploitation of race and ethnicity. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics in 2010, Black men were arrested at a rate of 2,207 per 100,000 people, Latinos 966 per 100,000 people, and white only 459 per 100,000 people. With these demographics, one can begin to realize the importance of paying attention to this topic. In our photo essay, we shall present the biological, psychological, and social and cultural factors of incarceration, along with the effects of family and ethical considerations and issues, with a concentration on the biopsychosocial perspective.
Behavior is a major property of living organisms, so therefore, biological aspects play a major role in an individual's criminal history. Hypoglycemia, chemical, mineral, and vitamin deficiencies are a few biological factors associated with criminal behavior. Another biological factor to examine with incarcerated individuals is hormonal imbalance, such as mood swings, panicking, and feeling less confident than normal. All these aspects of hormonal imbalances may cause individuals to act out of character, maybe make them feel inferior, and therefore may act out in violent behaviors which lead them to incarceration. Psychological factors of incarceration of young and middle adulthood individuals. Psychological factors play a huge role in one's criminal history. People can be broken down psychologically, mentally, where they are forced to act on criminal behavior. They can even be coerced mentally to commit crimes that they would not in their right state of mind. In other words, they can be mentally broken down. Numerous of times, adult criminal behavior stems from a childhood filled with trauma, which lead to mental disorders such as bipolar manic depression, schizophrenia, and personality disorders. It is believed that 20% of prison inmates in America have serious mental illness. 50% of males and 75% of females in state prisons, and 75% of females and 63% of males inmates in jails will experience a mental health problem. Individuals with serious mental illness have a high rate of criminal justice involvement than those with no mental illness. There is an alarming number of serious mental illness in jails, prisons, and community corrections.
Incarceration, the social factors. Great America, land of the free. America is one of the most incarcerated countries in the world. We own 5% of the world's population, but incarcerate 25% of the world's entire population of incarcerated peoples. Education versus incarceration. 34% of offenders are between the ages of 21 and 30. Most crimes are committed by young men. 72% of all crimes are committed by men alone. An African American male is 14 times more likely to go to jail than any other race. If you do not obtain your high school diploma, you are more likely to be incarcerated. And for a black male, that means a 70% chance to be incarcerated by the age of 34 if they do not obtain their high school diploma. What this all boils down to is that it is more likely for a black young adult to go to prison than to go to college. When speaking of people, individuals in this age group, this is a time where you are establishing yourself. You're seeking education to further yourself in your career or figure out what you want to do with your life. You're establishing intimate relationships. You're growing in a mental, physical, and emotional standpoint. You're creating social ties. You're creating social ties that are going to enable you to further yourself. Being incarcerated during this time interrupts those things. Being incarcerated becomes what you know. You create social ties with other incarcerated people. You feel your norms with other incarcerated people. And many of these people leave behind children. Over half of incarcerated individuals leave behind children to be raised by other people and to be left behind. This creates a world where incarceration is a norm. 1 in 9 African American children are children of parents that are incarcerated. That makes this a norm. This makes this a conversation in the schools. That means that as a teacher, you have to be prepared to have these conversations and to understand how to deal with these type of children. These are the social effects of being in America with a mass incarceration system. an incarceration for profit system. Incarceration, cultural factors. It is almost impossible to talk about the mass incarceration of America without bringing up the fact that as an African American male, if you do not obtain your high school diploma, you are 70% more likely to go to prison by the age of 34. It is suggested that the empowerment theory is something that could help to address mass incarceration. It is also suggested that the Black church take leadership in this movement of advocating, educating, and empowering the African American male in order to get them to shift away from being put into these situations. Encourage them and give them hope of being able to complete high school and then move on to college. It is more likely for the African American male to go to prison than it is for him to complete a 4-year degree. Mass incarceration has caught the likes of John Legend, who started a foundation in order to bring light to the issue of mass incarceration and how it unequally affects that of African American families. In less than 50 years, the prison population has gone from 250,000 people incarcerated to over 2.4 million people, with the African American being 14 times more likely to be imprisoned than those of any other race. Is mass incarceration the new racism?
My name is Nicia Kamara, and our topic is incarceration. I will be covering the family and ethical aspects. In 1997, almost half of jailed men were fathers. When males are incarcerated, they are ripped from their home and all the responsibilities that they have at the home. At one point in time, they were considered the provider, so when they are not at home, that role needs to be filled. When you remove the man from the family, it affects them financially. The role of men have drastically changed because of mass incarceration and the shift away from manufacturing-based work. Also, the decline in minimum wage increased the need for a dual-income household. Them being stripped from the household also affects them emotionally. Relationships with children and the spouse suffer because of the absence. The partner who is not incarcerated, which is usually women, start to feel lonely and neglected when their partner is away in prison. The abandonment also leads to the spouse not coming to visit, when in turn affects the prisoner and adds to their loneliness also. Parental incarceration affects negatively on children and adds to the cycle of incarceration. Disparities in imprisonment produced high lifelong risks for imprisonment for minority men with little schooling. On the other side, for women, the rates are low, but they are rapidly growing. While both groups, men and women, experienced great increase in their risk for imprisonment, the risk was still larger for males. As far as ethical issues, by the age of 34, young adulthood, the risk for white men being in prison nearly tripled and more than doubled for black men. Also, the statistics between black and white men imprisonment are far away from equal. About 1 in 5 African Americans experience imprisonment. For whites, it's only 1 in 30. Due to the prison boom in 1970s, a lot of people who are in middle adulthood now have been to prison. Thus far, this has been based on men, but there are some staggering numbers when it comes to women also. About 2 to 3 women incarcerated have a child that is a minor. Most women that are incarcerated are in young to middle adulthood. They are usually inserted into the prison system during young adulthood, receive long sentences, and remain imprisoned well into middle adulthood. There's the idea around prison that men are the only criminals and that the women's prisons are often glamorized, just like the show Orange is the New Black, and also with the white woman being the face of this. Parental imprisonment causes increases in mental health and behavioral issues within the family and the prisoner. It also affects the mental health state of the prisoner. For this presentation, I used Erickson's psychosocial theory, where the population was in the intimacy versus isolation stage, and Freud's psychosexual theory. Some ethical issues surrounding this are the reasoning for the disproportionate black male incarceration rates. Sentencing disparity is one of the biggest reasons. Minorities get sentenced longer for lesser or equal crimes as their white counterparts. The most incarcerated ages are from ages 18 to 29, which is right in the middle of the young adulthood stage. This is a time where people are also starting their families, so them being stripped from their families is also happening a lot. Family is essential during the young adulthood stage. They are seeking independence. Part of the development goes hand in hand with being independent. The spouse and the children are not the only ones that are affected, but immediate family also. They have to step in and fill in that spot that is being voided because of the imprisoned person. On a positive note, people in prison often do find comfort in religion during their prison stay, and when they come out, they are more spiritual than when they went in. To end my part of the presentation, I just wanted to include some positives because it's not all negative. When people are in jail, they tend to find better things to do with their time. It has been shown that they actually read more. When they actually get out of prison, they have a new lease on life. They want to make relationships better and build new ones. They're more thankful and more grateful for everything that they have because they have had it stripped away. The family grows closer because of the absence of the incarcerated, and the present parent, when one parent is incarcerated, becomes essential to the child, and the bond grows stronger. And also with visits, when they have visits, they are happier, they have better mood, and a better outlook on life. They still feel like people on the outside care. My name is Nicia Khmer, and our topic is incarceration. Now that you have seen our presentation, please feel free to discuss the many issues we shared in regards to the effects on young and middle adults. Think about what personal and environmental factors are causing the incarceration rates of young men to be so high, and what can or should be done to help stop this, along with advocate for the people who are still serving time.